There's a big gap between having data and turning that data into real customer personalization. Customer.io closes that gap. Fun, personalized experiences for every channel, with AI to handle the boring stuff. Learn more at customer.io/TMM. Welcome to the Marketing Millennials, the No BS Marketing Podcast. I'm Daniel Murray, and join me for unfiltered conversations with the brains behind marketing's coolest companies. The one request I tell our guests, stories or it didn't happen. Get ready to turn the up. We are back with another episode of the Marketing Millennials podcast. I am here with the head of marketing of Slate, Christina. I'm so glad we finally get to chat. And this is our first time actually chatting, but it's good to chat on a podcast because then you get to hear the non-filtered thoughts come out of both of us. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Been a big fan for a long time.
Let's get into your journey first, and then we'll get into the conversation. So how did you get into the marketing space?
Oh my gosh. So I kind of stumbled into this. I worked in social for over a decade. I had actually went to school as a political communications major. And because I was the young person when I was working as a legislative aide for a state rep, they were like, you're young, you can handle social media. You know how to work a phone. And so that was the start of my initial bit with marketing, is that I handled the state rep's social media account. And then that led to me going into this leather goods company and then a fuel company. And then I ended up in tech. I went from Panadoc to then OpenPhone to then Plot, and now I am at Slate. So the trajectory of my career has primarily been a social media marketer. And I've gone into head of marketing sort of like because I became more of a generalist. I was always very interested in doing different aspects of marketing. And I think social has just played a big role in helping me become a bit more adaptable, because I could just do anything. I guess social's always the person that's like, here, take a post, create it. How can we talk to our audience? It's the same qualities across the board.
Yeah, I feel the same about marketing ops. I came from marketing ops, and it's just the do everything, know everything department. And I feel social media pretty much the same as everything what the customers are saying, the industry's saying. You're talking to the community all the time, so makes total sense. Going into this, you have a buzzword that you don't like that's in the industry, and I want you to tell us what the buzzword is and tell us how people use it and what it actually means to you.
Oh my God. I hate authenticity so much because I feel like they wear it as a badge of honor, and they try to position it as a way of you need to always be authentic, but it becomes a buzzword because we're never truly authentic when social in and itself is pretty performative. And I find that it's really jarring when people are like, yeah, this is so authentic, but it's like that probably went through that campaign or whatever that post is, probably went through, especially from the brand side, probably went through a series of revisions and back and forth and planning. So the authenticity layer right there just holds people in this unachievable expectation of how we're supposed to exist online. And I just think it's one of those things where people toss around as just another word, like we're being authentic. One, I think it's bullshit. Two, I think it's also very lazy. And three, I think it's kind of like a cop-out to say, we're trying to be edgy by being authentic because this is how we define it. But authentic is very subjective. It's hard to define what that is online. That is a very performative state.
I feel like the only way you could be authentic is write a journal. And if you write a journal on social, it's probably not going to perform because it's not meant for, It's meant for you, not the audience. If you would write your journal online, you would have to rework the journal to have a hook, some meat in there that will keep grabbing the attention, storytelling. Yeah. And then it wouldn't be a journal anymore. It's just something to help make the audience.
Because you fit everything into a framework. And then I also think do you really want people to be authentic? Like, do we actually want that? We certainly don't consume the content that have, the meandering thoughts or the half-baked ideas. We ourselves, as, the active scrollers, we don't like that type of content. So why are we saying we want to see people's authentic self? Because authentic could also mean trauma dumping on a daily basis. Like, there's different ways that people can be authentic. I just think when we think about the platforms, there are these social norms that, get into place on how we should act and behave on there, that I think it would be completely disruptive if somebody was truly authentic and show every layer of themselves. And so, yeah, I just think the word authentic just feels really, I think the definition needs to be changed, maybe. Like I would probably say, because there's, I don't know, so much work goes into authenticity.
When people say authentic, but what do you think that what does the market actually want? Because we kind of said that if these authentic posts
Yeah.
aren't, if someone's really being authentic and laying it out the line and not caring about metrics, or they're not caring about likes, they're not caring about comments, they're not caring about performance. If you would have to being in your years in social and seeing that, what does the market actually want out of content online?
Yeah. I think what they really want is to have content that's relatable to them in that moment. I think that's what they want. And I think often that's why, we see the addiction happen when these algorithm becomes very specific to knowing you as a person and showing you content that you generally like to engage with. And so that's why I think like even authenticity, when we think of, back in like, I don't know, let's say 2016, 2017, when the Instagram, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself saying the Instagram. That sounds like my parents when they go the TikTok. But when Instagram used to reward people for their authentic or not their curated posts, and then I think because that layer of performance where people had these really highly curated life people started realizing like, oh, this is making me feel bad about myself because I'm not doing things in a way that, or living my life in a way that is what I'm seeing online. And I think that resistance to engaging with that type of content started taking form. And that's why the word authenticity started coming around, where they're like, no, show me the uncurated side. Show me like, the messiness of your life, because that's what's innately human. Fast forward, now we're in a place where the algorithm really controls what you like to consume and see, and everything is tailored to you. I think, again, I think the audience really controls what they want to see. So when they say authentic, it's really uniquely what they like. Because again, like I could say I want to consume content that I feel is storytelling, human, something that makes me feel like you're not being performative and fake and you're not an ad. But then another person might be like, I want somebody to be able to show me all the curated stuff. So I don't know. I think it's all subjective and depending on the person.
I totally agree. I mean, and authentic means different from a creator versus a brand, where
Yes.
and the definition is changing all the time. Like, what does it mean to be authentic? You're not authentic enough. You're not showing the deeper side. But when they start to show the deeper side, then they're getting trolled on or they're getting hated
Yes.
on. So it's really hard to actually
I mean,
be fully authentic online.
yeah. Have you ever seen a post where you think to yourself, wow, you actually had that thought, you typed it out, and then you shared it? And it's like that person might be very authentic in that moment, They're just sharing whatever thought came to mind. And and I feel like sometimes the way people react to things it, like would dictate how that creator or that person who's sharing perform in the next post that they share, So I don't know. Social
Yeah, because I
media.
mean, as a brand, you've done this 1,000 times. You make a post, and you think you have to go through the checklist in your head where, hey, is this fit our brand guidelines, our brand values? Am I going to get canceled for this or not? Am I? And you just start going down the checklist
Yeah.
in your head before when you even start creating, and that
Right.
already waters down what you were going to originally think, because your
Yes.
brain is filtered to have these guidelines, and your audience, if you show a meme of this person or a
Mhm.
picture of this type of person versus that type of person or this or that, you're
Yeah.
at risk in the community for maybe not being authentic enough or being cancelable, or so you have to have this is an always on filter as a social person or a social company or
Yeah.
as a brand where you can never be truly authentic.
Yeah. And I think that's why we have these branding exercises in every team that I go through, every company that I've been with. I think it is important to know in the beginning, and this is from just, the brand marketing side of the house. When I think about companies and how they appear on social, it's like, let's define what authenticity means to us, meaning, do we know ourselves and our values and the mission that we're trying to drive? And how does that show up in our content? And I think oftentimes people get shiny object syndrome when it comes online, and they're like, oh, I see what this company's doing, like they're totally disrupting the market, like look at them getting all this attention. How can we do that? But I do think, as a social person or even as a general marketer, I think it's good to take a step back and be like, hey, what is it that we're trying to do on here? Like, what is our goal with even showing up online? Obviously, in business, it is to drive business, right? But at the end of the day, I also think it's worth sort of considering everything that we share. It's always going to be, we want validation from people to say what we're sharing is good. But I can share memes all day long. If that memes does not correlate to the things that we're sharing as a business, is that going to be impactful? So yeah, I do agree with what you were saying, how we're constantly having this filter on, and and it's just so funny to even think about, because I don't even think, if you haven't worked in social in that capacity, that you would even think like that. Like, just an average everyday social media user, do you think about all the layers that go into every post? Probably not. But for some reason, the rest of us who like to share things online, constantly filtering through.
That's why some of the younger creators succeed faster, because they have this innocence to them when they're posting, where
Yes.
they haven't been through the trauma of layers of social over the year.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, like, let's say a brand did say we're authentic, or we're sharing our authentic values
Mm.
as a brand. Let's say like it's authentic values. What are the receipts you want to see from them to show that they actually are delivering on that promise? Or if you were trying to define authentic in your company, and here are the values of being authentic, what are the receipts that the audience is looking for to show that you are delivering on the promise you're saying as
That
your
it's,
content?
yeah. I think just seeing it as being a repeated message over and over again. And I find this is actually a challenge for a lot of brands. And I do a lot of consulting on the side too, where it goes back to the shiny object syndrome, where you start doing things because you think that's going to be in favor of whatever the platform algorithm is going to do and help you get more reach. But I do think that the slower side of building yourselves and your brand does require a lot of work. It requires a lot of iteration, but it requires dedication to actually like seeing the message through. And I find that if you are going to say that our brand value, like I'll use Slate as an example, we really value the fact of like, we do think social teams are the most under-resourced group of people, and they are typically they're under supported, they're under resourced, they are not utilized to the max capacity, they are often like the last to be considered for a lot of things, yet they have a high threshold of responsibilities that is, pushed on them day in and day out. But for us, we're like, how do we continue driving the mission that we want to be there to support these teams? So every angle that we do, whether it's talking about our product or us as individual Slate employees talk about anything online, it's always surrounding that message of how do we solve the social problems, because we ourselves have existed in this space for a really long time, so we have empathy for that pain. So if we have empathy for these marketers, do the things we say actually help in that way? So we don't really think in terms of like what formats need to go out or that content structure. We just know at our core, if we keep talking about these things more than enough times, like, social teams need to be better supported, or they need to have better tools built for them. Like, if we keep having the same conversations in different ways, it's eventually going to get sticky to people, where they're like, okay, if we think of any brands that are the most supportive to social team, we're going to think about Slate, because we see them posting about it all over the place all the time. And it's just like keeping that center, that core thought. And I've seen companies who say things like, we want to be We want to be super innovative, and innovation is like such a weird term because I'm like, how are you different than the next brand that's saying that they're innovative, you know? But then you have companies like Patagonia who are very mission driven, and you see the things that they give back to the community. You see like the way they work with their creators. It's every single touch point of their marketing like fully validates the things that they post on their website and the things that they say that they stand for, because you just see it repeated over and over again. I just went on a full tangent.
No, I agree. I think the core of great content and great social and great marketing is going back to always delivering on that core at every like you said, at every touch point. I think, and that's why I think a lot of people don't have a lot of marketing problems. They just have a positioning problem or a
Yes.
messaging problem, and they
Yeah.
don't have, I need to put out more content. I need to do this. It's usually that they haven't defined what you have defined at Slate. They haven't defined what they did at Patagonia, and they rely on, we are the most innovative, blah 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 blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, and then they're wondering why their content or marketing is not hitting as
Yes.
hard as someone who has defined a message that actually hits with their audience.
Yeah. And it's such, and I know that, you know, we're existing in this time where output and volume is just so demanding, because a lot of times, and I do think it's honestly the lack of deep knowledge towards how, you know, marketing or social operates. But I think like this whole thing of, we want that dopamine quick results, like we want to go viral, we want that attention, is so like everybody fiends for it, that I feel like it distracts people from actually putting in the effort to build that sort of reputation, you know? Because it
Yeah.
requires a lot of work. It does, like it's a slow burn in a way, but I think it's worth the effort to push into that and really like develop your positioning, because that is so important. And I find that you eventually double back on it anyway. So if you're focused so hard on like, we just need more content, more content, more content, but then it doesn't relate to anything because now you have a variety of content that doesn't connect back to any core messaging, that's when people are like, how are you any different from any other SaaS company or any other company in the market for that matter?
Let me ask you this then. So, what matters more today in the market? Is it, when it comes to content? Is it distribution, differentiation, or depth?
I think depth. I think we are lacking a lot of depth, especially because we are existing in this whole AI bubble right now where people are serious. They are so, and honestly, I will praise people for being really adaptive and they're really quick to absorbing a lot of stuff. But man, the AI sludge that's coming out because everybody is, again, feeling that pressure to put more output out there, that I don't know. I think people are creating really good quality depth. Like they want people who are more thoughtful. They want brands who are actually like putting some, I don't know, some strong point of views and opinions behind the things that they're sharing, you know?
When you go down that depth, I think a lot of it comes from doing things that don't exist on the internet, which is like getting first party data from your customers or getting the problem sets of interviews and reviews. And that's why I love
Yeah.
podcasts, because we get this raw transcript. This raw transcript could be a whole new first
Yeah.
party data article that nobody has, because I'm taking it from something that's coming from your mind and creating something new that nobody has seen on the internet, because we haven't this conversation has never happened
Yeah.
before between me and you, which I think that's where, also I think that you said this, it's a lack of thinking. And also when you go to AI, you're just saying, write me more marketing content, or instead of saying, think about what marketing content is actually needed in this world. How could I, because you could create great content with AI if you know how to like take multiple pieces of AI, do deep research first, then take the parts of the research that is great, and then plug and play together, which is a skill to take different information and put it into one place. I mean, you could use AI and create something great. I think the problem is that we're just trying to, like you said, get this hamster wheel of getting the most amount of content out. And it's not working for a lot of
I
brands.
Someone had asked me um, in the last few months because in the beginning, I was a big, I was, I had very strong opinions about people using AI as part of their creative outputs. And I had a lot of strong opinions that I shared across LinkedIn. But somebody had asked me the other day, like, do I fear AI is going to take my job? And I don't see it as taking my job because I don't think, I mean, I would hope not. Maybe maybe in a few years, who knows? But I don't think it's going to take my job. I do think it requires a prompt level skills of how to use AI as a tool that could help me be better at my job and get me unstuck at some of those things. And it is like you say, and I remember one of my response back to them was like, I think lazy marketers will always be lazy marketers, regardless of whatever tool they're using or any of that sort. The output will always be the same, whether they have the tool or they're not. It's just gonna, that is the way it is. But I think for us creative folks or people who are really like attuned with what good content is, they'll learn how to adapt and, partner with all of this stuff to take it to that next level. And I just want, I don't know. I think as a personal social usage and stuff, I just feel tired a lot of times when I see content. I get really tired of the bullshit and the repetitive stuff that I'm like, this is not. I actually can watch things on mute and keep scrolling, but then there'll be something about one video that'll get me to stop and I can watch a full 15-20 minute video as long as it's good content. And I know a lot of people, and this is like me rambling on, I know a lot of people also say like people have a short attention span. I think people just have a short patience for shitty content. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Plus one. I've said that. I mean, I agree too. I've said that 1,000 times. I think the bar for good content just gets higher every year, and a lot of people stay at the old bar or they stay below the bar, and that's why they're not breaking through. I think since we're getting so much content out there, that's why when we go back and watch a movie that we liked maybe 10 years ago and we see how bad the effects were and this and this, and then we watch a movie today and see how 10x better it became. The bar of creating a movie is now, I mean, there is great storytelling and there are great movies from the past, and I do believe that they are, but the ones that were created poorly and were great at that time are like supersede the ones that now are could supersede if they have the storytelling and the aspects of a great movie and have that extra layer of creating great content on there.
That is such a
So
good analogy to compare it to.
it just the bar. That's just the bar is getting better, and you just have to keep. And I think the thing about tools, what I think we just had the conversation about tools, is the marketers that are going to win is the ones that could make themselves 10x, 20x, 30x better with the
Yeah.
tools. It's not the
Yeah.
ones that are going to be replaced by the tools. Is how can I make this tool make me as a marketer
Right.
10x better at my job, 20x better at my job, and like not 2x, because a lot of people are already becoming 2x better at that job because they could
Yep.
do it. They can read things at super speed. They can digest information faster.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we get 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x, 50x better at a job with
Yeah.
AI?
I even think
Uh,
on the subject of AI, have you noticed how quick people, I mean, even ourselves, can detect AI content? Like, first, we can detect obviously AI writing, but now, with all the AI videos coming out, it's just so funny how the human brain works because it's like, how do you tell the difference between AI writing versus a human writing, but then there are these pattern detection that you pick up. And I think it's just so funny. I wonder where we're going to be in about 5 years with this stuff. Like, am I going to have a harder time figuring out what is AI content? Are people going to train
I
it
think we're
better?
going to all have harder times. I just think if people are writing with AI, you always need that human sprinkle to go parse through it to make sure it sounds correct, to make sure it has taste, to make sure the examples
Yes.
are good, to make sure it's performative, and my audience would like that, because I do truly believe one of the harder, and social people have it and content people have it, and but one of the hardest things to teach is taste and creativity. It's hard to teach it, and AI is only the inputs you give it. So if you have a great taste and
Mm.
expertise, that's why I feel for the new marketers coming in, because expertise is what teaches taste. You have to be able to see things over and over and over to get taste. And I think the marketers who have built that muscle are going to be stronger and stronger. Now, like creative marketers are going to be the ones that are harder, because now AI could just analyze data like this. Like you don't need to be great at data anymore.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's crazy. I say in a way, there that is the flip side where it could handle all the mundane stuff that I hated about my job and let me focus on being creative. And maybe sometimes my focus on being creative is just laying on the floor and having a long think.
yeah, I mean that. I think that's the benefit. I think we weren't for 10 years allowed to be able to have time to think, because we had so
No.
much
Yeah.
time we had so little time to do everything else. So, and
Right.
that's the social managers, like we're talking about social right now, like social media managers, since their jobs is blah blah blah, like all the time trying to
Yeah.
do this stuff, they don't have time to think about the next big creative idea, because the next
Yes.
big creative, they don't have time to do it. They don't have time
Right.
to just go on a walk and refer, because the best ideas don't happen when you work. And if you're
No,
working
it
all the
certainly
time,
does.
you're screwed.
Right. And it's so funny
Uh,
because this all goes in a full circle moment of us talking about authenticity earlier. If we want so badly to create original content that resonates with people, we do have to carve out that space to give ourselves the moment to just think a little more deeply on things.
um, let's go back to something specific about. So, what do you think um, social teams misunderstand about making content efficient or efficiently?
Um, what do I think they mistaken to build? Huh. That's a great question. I think they mistaken creating content efficiently by just like more volume. I really think it's just like, how can I produce the most amount of content in a short amount of time so that way I can plug it all in the calendar and batch it in a month's time. Social moves so fast these days that the method of managing these accounts that I've done maybe 10 years ago, with the whole calendar, batching, doing social holidays, and all these other things, that stuff doesn't work anymore. We have to move at the speed of culture. Yes, agreed. But we have to also be attuned with what's happening and be able to read the room a little bit and create content that's actually going to be sticky. So I think in order for folks to do that, they really just got to have, I don't know, better tooling, better understanding of their what their company goals are, um, and the way they could be efficient is having all that clear in the very beginning. And so there's no hiccup along the way. Like, I think sometimes as social people, we have this idea of how we want to project the company forward by simply creating content, but it's very hard to tie it back to what the business trajectory is. And so we need to marry, social and the greater marketing a little bit more. Um,
Yeah, I love that. I think the old social way of doing things is never going to work again. And I think it goes back to what we said at the beginning, and you said, um, where great content is just relevancy, and relevancy could be in a lot of
yeah,
different buckets. Like relevancy is, are you relevant with the pain points of your audience, which is evergreen. That's evergreen bucket you could do. And the next bucket is there a trend that's happening right now that's relevant to my audience that I can hop on as a brand that fits my brand? That's relevancy. That's another stage of relevancy. And then the next bucket of relevancy um, is there something original that I could do to become a relevant brand? And there's like buckets of trend. There's a bucket of the evergreen stuff, which I know is going to work all the time. And then there's like that original bucket. And I think 70% should probably go in the pain point evergreen stuff, because that won't,
yeah,
but you need to be able to have space for that 20% of trend jumping on, and that 10% of original ideas to win in
yeah.
social.
I think teams just gotta have to like have an agreement and work together. And whenever I join any new company, I spend about a couple of months just fine tuning everyone's understanding of what our goals are on social or even with broader marketing, because having that clear understanding from the CEO all the way down to like your very junior intern and knowing like what our hopes are with this, that's gonna make the work so much better. I mean, I even know it's basic stuff too, like setting the brand guidelines in the beginning, implementing it across social. Like, do we use certain graphics for this stuff? Do we use this font? Do we use this color? Um, those are the little details that I don't think people often think about. And then they get stuck into this whole tunnel of back and forth. And that just slows the entire process of growth down.
Let me ask you this. So, what is the smallest amount of content a brand can produce and still win on social? Like, what is that level? Because is it because there is a level where you're posting so little that you're not even in the
Right.
feed and you're not being relevant. So, what is that bar for you? We all know marketing has to feel human to work. But when each message has to be built, tested, and managed across every channel, feeling human is easier said than done. Customer.io makes it possible with AI automation and integrated marketing tools so you could speed up repetitive work and skip the boring one-size-fits-all marketing. Give customer experiences that feel like they were created just for them, wherever they are. Learn more at customer.io/TMM.
I do think per platform, depending on what platform they want to prioritize, let's say if they have one social person, they should probably only choose 2 platforms max, because realistically, you need platform specialists to understand like the current culture that's happening on those channels too. That being said, let's say 1 or 2 platform max. I would say at a minimum, you should do 2 or 3 posts a week. And the post does not always have to be something original and new. Again, earlier you had just said we should have this bucket of evergreen content. That's something that's created across the team, not just social. That can certainly be used again and again as time goes on. But then we save the space of being like, let's have, some actually highly thoughtful original content come out too. I like to work in content sprints where I like to really think about what's happening in the space. And the content sprint could be like 2 weeks where we're always kind of leapfrogging. The content that we're creating now will probably show up in 2 weeks time. And then during that 2 weeks, we're batching the next 2 weeks. So that's the minimum. I think 2 to 3 weeks. So that way you stay relevant, keep it on. And if you only have one person, you should only do a max of 2 platforms. Because I think any more than that, you're rinsing and repeating and probably using the same content across all these channels. And it's not going to land the same way. And you're just wasting your efforts.
Yeah, A plus. Better to be an A, B to A on channels than a C on every. Because if you are posting all the channels, you're gonna end up being a C across all those channels, and you're not gonna win on
Yeah.
one channel.
Yeah. And realistically, how are you going to know what's actually working if you don't have that focus there? We need focus, and I think like expecting one person. That's why I think carrying the battle wounds from all those years ago of having to manage all the platform, Meta being Facebook specifically being I swear to God, I would rather swallow glass than ever have to log into Facebook again. That said, I do think there are certain people who are just more they're just hyper aware of what these channels are doing currently. And they do it because they're active users on there, or they just like, they're following the things. Expecting one person to manage all those channels in the equal amount of focus that would be insane. They would probably have to work 90, 100 hours a week, because there's no freaking way. Because social person has to be chronically online. They have to be managing the platform, not just in the content output, but then also managing the reactions, the community building, also scrolling through the content that's on there. That's a lot for one person.
Chronically online on every platform, which is, and then you're mind sharing on a lot of platforms, so you actually aren't consuming enough on the 1 or 2 platforms that you're trying to win on, because you're trying to consume on all these platforms. And that a lot of winning on social is just the person who is consuming so much on that platform, they know what the community wants, what works, what format works, how I'm going to deliver this content, how I'm going to package it up. Is it changing? Is it video now? Is it text? Is it this? Is it that? Is
Yeah.
because Facebook works for some brands, and
Mhm.
Instagram works with some brands, and X works with some brands, and LinkedIn works with some brands, but you should be the platform that works for your brand and be a winner on that platform. Then you could
Yeah.
figure out those other platforms along the line.
Yeah,
So
100%. I think the new wave of how people are developing their marketing team, and especially when it goes down to social, I really think they should lean into getting platform specialists because I think it's good to have somebody dedicated in studying each of these channels.
they do it for paid. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. That's right. They do it for paid.
yeah, for paid teams, you have an expert who knows how to do. If you have a well-oiled paid machine, you have someone who's probably running paid, and then you have someone who's an expert in Facebook and an expert in
Mhm.
Google. And if you're on TikTok, you have someone who knows how to run TikTok
That's
and
right.
TikTok Shop. You don't have these one person running those five.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're not going to win on those channels. And
Right.
they don't do that. We don't treat social the same unless you're this a big brand who has
Right.
the budget to be treated like
Who also
that.
has the
So
budget to hire agencies to then
yeah,
focus on those channels, which is
yeah,
that itself is always bizarre to me. When I hear I'm lucky enough to be able to, in the last two companies, and especially right now, I get to have these one-on-one times with different social teams across various industries, and the pain point is always the same, where it's just like they some of the bottlenecks that we experience from the organic side. It's like how you have the conversation of always having to manage up in a way of telling people like, hey, we need more resources. They're telling you we want more attention. And you're like, okay, great, but I need help in this. And their idea of help is not is not giving people the tools that they need. It's always like let's hire a contractor or an agency to come in and do this focus where they could have brought on an in-house person, ramp them up on this channel and really give them the tools necessary to build it to the next level. That's why I am very I'm super opinionated, and I think like not to do a plug here, but I do think the way we're running Slate's marketing right now, we're all social experts in our own respect because we've all worked in managing social accounts across like in our experiences. And so our team is made up of people who are different platform specialists. And so we get to come together and have these like jam sesh where we could think of one piece of content, but then see it through the lens of the platforms that we care about. For us, our priority right now is LinkedIn, and we also have Substack. But we're also thinking a lot about how Instagram was and like where do we want to consider Facebook? But that's a conversation we can have because we're in a fortunate position where we have enough social people on the marketing team that could have that.
yeah. Because also platform insights. I do highly believe that messaging on one platform will work on another platform. It's just
Mm-hmm.
packaging on
Yes.
platforms. Um, so if you were dominating, let's say LinkedIn as a company, and you're saying I want to go on Instagram, if you look at your top 100, like top 50 highest performing LinkedIn posts, and you get someone who's an Instagram expert to package that into reels, into
Mm-hmm.
slideshows, into using the correct trending music
Yes.
and trial reels and all these things that are working on Instagram, and you get someone to do that, I highly think you will win on that platform. But that person
Yes.
needs to be able to convert that content into that channel.
Yeah. Be
So
that
that's why
channel
winning is
translator.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that's hard to do, but you need someone to do that. But I just say like that goes back to saying win on one platform first,
Yes.
and then try another platform.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's go to what are some of the content you seeing on LinkedIn, let's say about your space or marketing, that is like bugging you right now?
Oh man, am I gonna get canceled for this? I think the content that has bugged me personally bugs me is that I think gimmicky marketing is giving me the ick. And gimmicky marketing in the sense of like almost like these cheesy infomercials style. I think that was trending a couple years ago, especially on a place like LinkedIn, where people were doing the corny marketing as a retaliation to the buttoned up marketing. But I do think it's, I feel like it's a little cheap. And I don't know. I think that that's just my opinion though. I'm sure that I always see those posts get engagement, so I'm sure it's fine. But for me, I'm just like, it's a little gimmicky. I don't really like it. I do I do like the type of content that is very, I think people could be very witty and very funny with their meme strategy. And I know memes for people are always like a hit or miss because they're like, oh, I don't know if a brand can actually like share this or say it. But I think that that requires a level of skill to be that deadpan funny. And I wish we could do more of that. Like I wish more people had that skill built in them. But obviously that's something that again they'd have to consume and know what type of content fits in a meme.
Yeah, I think you have to be funny, but then also understand your audience, and then also
Yeah.
understand culture at the same time, which is to
Yes.
make a meme hit. I'm thinking of the content you don't like, and I'm
Uh,
wondering if I'm
so
thinking the same thing as you're thinking of, because I've seen some content on, and it's hard to tell on LinkedIn because there are content that's actually truly liked, and there's also content that's in these deep like pods.
yeah, I'm just so glad, Daniel, that the content where people are crying online has dialed back because of crying CEOs and stuff. I'm really glad that that's dialing back. And it goes back to authenticity, right? Do we want to see people cry online or take a selfie of them going through a traumatic thing? Probably not. So I'm glad that we're not seeing a lot of those anymore. Or at least hopefully,
Yeah,
maybe that's just my
that's
algorithm.
one trend that I see work, and I've never got it, which is fine. I'd work, so I think people could see. I've never gotten the trend of continuously posting a picture and then advice that has nothing to do with the picture.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Like I don't mind you posting a picture if you're doing
Yeah.
something that's
Related
with the
somehow.
related to the picture,
Yeah.
but you're posting a picture and then saying
Yeah.
having this blurb about something that has nothing to do with the picture. I don't I It works though. It works, but
It
it
does.
works with certain people. It doesn't work for
Yes.
everybody.
Yes. It doesn't work for
That
everybody.
I've never got that content, but I'm all about. I hate to say it. I'm a fan of content I'm not a fan of doing it, but if your content performs and it's doing you getting you
Yeah.
business and it's working for you, keep doing it. I'm not going to hate on it. But I just
Yes.
didn't. I don't get that it works. I don't get why it works, but that's just
Yeah.
me.
Well, I used to get asked a lot too as I share more content personally on LinkedIn or other channels. They're always like, what is your approach to creating content? And I'm like, whatever I feel like that day is my approach. But that being said, I think a lot of times people seek advice on what content works. And for me, it's really hard because it is subjective to your audience and, what you're known for. And that goes across for brand as well. It's hard to say, memes might work for us, but it might not work for you because your audience don't care to absorb things that way. Like your audience might be a bunch of finance people,
I also think memes too, because I've done
Yeah.
memes for a long time, but I think part of why I think memes worked for me is because that's a format that people connected with me as a brand.
Yes.
It's not like it's not because it necessarily was the memes. It's just they knew that if I post, it would probably be a
Yeah.
meme, and
Right.
that's it's kind of something where if you show up enough in a feed and you do something consistently, which we talked about consistently, you start being known for that type of content. Where I know some people who are really good at video, they show up very good at video and they consistently do video very well, and they win that way because the next post someone's expecting a video.
Right.
Because
Right.
that's what their brand is. And I think that's where sometimes if you post a random meme and then you don't post the meme for another 5 months, it's gonna not hit as well as you if it's
Right.
part of your strategy to post it.
Yep.
So last thing I want to ask you, because I ask everybody on this podcast, and I know you love hot takes, but what is a marketing hill you would die on?
Well, the marketing hill that I would die on is probably Oh my gosh. I feel like this is a cop out answer if I were to say that a lot of hot takes are actually not hot at all. They're just lukewarm at best. The hot takes could certainly not melt butter. But if I go for something that's more specific to probably marketing and social, is that I just don't think the pray and spray model. Well, this isn't a hot take either. See, this is just lukewarm. But I think the pray and spray model is just not going to work. I don't think you can exist on social by just leaning into the media side of the house and sharing content without actually putting the same amount of work on the social side of the house, which means engaging more and, spending more time on the platform and engaging with the community and the audience. I say community, but I think somebody the other day had said, why are we all calling our audience community? Because community requires these set of rules and values that's shared together. And that, made me think more deeply about how we use that term. But yeah, engaging with our audience a little bit more.
Yeah, so that makes a good question. Are you? Is this not? This might be a This is a lukewarm take too. But are you actually doing social if you're not also reciprocating to the social world, meaning commenting, replying, engaging with your audience? Is it so social, or is it just you posting and leaving? What
Yeah.
is actual social?
I think when you say you work social media, I think you need to actually work social and media. I think you need to have a balance of both, and not just the social side has always become sort of like the receiving reciprocal, like, they only react to people engaging with them and they spend less time being proactive with the community and spending time like figuring out the conversations to be a part of. So I do think you have to be both. I don't think you should just take a backseat on the social side of the house simply because everybody's talking about content and how to show up more. I think at the end of the day, you'll probably help your brand a lot more if you balance it.
And it's funny because I know you said that social has all these roles blended into one, but inherently what you're also saying is the title, like the word social media and the title social media, is technically two roles, because
Yes.
you social the social and social media is really that engaging with the community, being online, understanding what's going on. That's one side, and the media is the production,
Yeah.
the producing of the content, and actually putting it out in the world. And there's two those are two separate, I would say sometimes two separate skill sets to like be good at actually engaging with community and knowing what to post all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's why they broke the rule out to have like the community managing side of the house. But I think like for those of us who've done this for a long time, I think it's one of those skills where we just figure out that balance. But slowly, not slowly, but I'm starting to see more and more that the scale is heavily weighed on just the media side when it comes to this role. That a lot of people very much lean into like what sort of content can we, create that's going to disrupt the feed, and less time thinking of like how do we build an audience through the social aspect of it, because you can do it with both. You could create good content and that'll attract folks, but how do you retain them? Are you just going to continue posting and never engage with them, never talk to them, never hear their feedbacks? There's a lot
Yeah,
that gets
good
involved
point. I
in
mean,
that.
I would argue even for just LinkedIn's sake that comments
Oh,
are way more valuable now than ever before.
mhm.
So if you don't have a commenting strategy, you're not going to win on LinkedIn right now.
No,
Just
it's so
that's a
hard
growth
to get.
strategy.
Yeah, it's a total growth strategy. And it's so hard because if you think about the volume of content that's going day in and day out, there's the other angle of the more time you spend on these channels and then doing that community engagement, the more return you're going to have and more opportunities of people noticing you, because the wit that goes into some of the commentary certainly can land some attention grabbing things that, maybe media won't be able to grab.
Yeah, totally agree. Lastly, where could people find you and what you're doing?
So they can find me anywhere on LinkedIn and Substack. My handles are these chapters because I was an avid reader. I say was because this last year I might have read 3 books, which is so embarrassing. Mom of 3, and working in a startup. So yeah, LinkedIn and Substacks are my jam.
I understand the pain. Now I understand becoming a parent in the last 6 months, like how hard it is to manage a job, a kid, and I couldn't imagine 3 kids and a job and being in marketing, perhaps. So I give a shout out to anybody who is doing this as a parent and a parent of multiple kids. You all are crushing it. So shout out to you for doing that.
Well, shout out to you because you're a parent too. And yeah, it is all of this is all a labor of love. Sometimes I wonder if and maybe this is a separate conversation, but I feel like being a woman in a startup and also being a mom, it puts me in this weird position where sometimes I don't know if I'm good anywhere. Like, I don't know if I'm a good marketer or if I'm a good mom because my attention span, it's constantly getting pulled in every direction. And working on social just makes it accelerates that feeling even more. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your lukewarm takes I'm kidding, but I think it's good to have refreshing thoughts and someone who actually is in social and understands it deeply. So thank you for coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me. This was really great.
Thanks so much for listening. Keep tuning in to hear more great insights from the coolest marketers from around the world. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and follow the Marketing Millennials podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, I would greatly appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating. It helps bring more marketers into our community.